What if a pair of old sneakers could turn an ordinary orphan into a basketball superstar overnight? In today's recap, we're diving into Like Mike, a heartwarming sports fantasy where a 14-year-old boy finds magical shoes that might have belonged to Michael Jordan himself. One lightning strike later, boom! He's suddenly dunking on pros and living the dream life every kid fantasizes about. But behind the fame, fortune, and slam dunks lies a story of friendship, belonging, and finding family in the most unexpected places. Stick around, because this isn't just a game. It's a journey you won't want to miss. Let's get into it. In the beginning of the film, we see a boy named Calvin playing basketball with his friends Murph and Richie in the orphanage garden. Suddenly, a naughty boy named Ox appears and begins teasing Calvin. He challenges Calvin to a basketball match, saying, "If you're brave, play a game with me." Calvin tries hard, but he can't beat Ox because he never received proper training. Ox easily wins because he is significantly stronger. Calvin must give Ox his favorite shirt under the terms of the agreement. Just to irritate him, Ox rips it apart after wearing it. Later, the orphanage's owner, Stan Biddleman, sends the kids to sell candies at a basketball game to make some extra money. While selling candies, Calvin notices a man who appears wealthy and attempts to sell him everything. But that man turns out to be the coach, who initially declines to buy. However, after learning that the money is for orphans, the coach gives Calvin 4 basketball game tickets. The next day, some people go to the orphanage to adopt children. Calvin notices that everyone wants to adopt young children. He walks away, saddened because he believes no one will adopt him. Meanwhile, a donation box containing old clothes arrives at the orphanage. Calvin notices a pair of white shoes lying separately. Sister Nun informs him that these might belong to a famous basketball player. Calvin checks the shoes and discovers MJ written inside. He quickly realizes they're Michael Jordan's legendary shoes. Ox becomes jealous and steals Calvin's shoes. He ties the laces and hangs them from a wire. That night, it began to rain with thunder. Calvin keeps thinking about those shoes. He sets out with Murph and Richie to get them back. He climbs a tree to get there, and just then, lightning strikes a nearby pole. Calvin falls down with the shoes, but thankfully, he is not injured. He notices that the shoes are glowing, as if they now possess some sort of power. Calvin is on his way to watch the basketball game with his friends the next day, having used the tickets. When Ox sees them and threatens to snitch, Calvin brings him along as well. During the game, the coach announces that someone from the audience will have the opportunity to play a one-on-one match with basketball star Tracy Reynolds. Fortunately, Calvin is selected. Everyone thinks he's just a little kid at first, but once he starts playing, he stuns them by scoring basket after basket. There's definitely something magical about those shoes. Calvin can jump 6 feet high. Calvin's incredible talent amazes everyone in the stadium. The team manager arrives and asks the orphanage director if Calvin can officially play for their team. At first, the head refuses, but when the coach offers a large sum of money, he quickly agrees. Everyone at the orphanage is happy, except Ox. He is extremely dissatisfied with this news. That same day, Calvin tells his friends that his shoes contain magic and that all of the amazing things that have occurred are solely due to their presence. But Ox overhears the conversation. Later, when Calvin arrives at the basketball game, the coach gives him a new uniform and shoes. However, Calvin insists on wearing his old shoes. After some convincing, they allowed him to play in his magical ones. Calvin becomes extremely popular after playing one-on-one with Tracy Reynolds. In a game where his team is struggling, Calvin begs the coach to let him play. Calvin enters the game in his magical shoes and performs admirably, even leading his team to victory. He signs a contract to play for the team in future matches. During a flight, the coach informs Tracy that Calvin will be staying in the same hotel room as him and that Tracy must take care of him. Calvin is excited to stay with Tracy, but Tracy dislikes the idea. He teaches Calvin how to order room service before leaving to go on a date with his girlfriend. When Calvin discovers room service, he goes crazy and orders everything he wants. Tracy returns to the room with his girlfriend and is taken aback by the state of disarray. Calvin snores loudly that night, leaving Tracy unable to sleep. Tracy appears tired and sleepy the next morning, leading up to the game. The coach notices this and warns him that if he does not rest properly before matches, he may be suspended from the team. Following that, Calvin participates in numerous team games and assists the team in winning each one. Fame and success follow him around. With his earnings, he buys gifts for all of the orphans. Calvin one night is telling his friend Murph exciting stories about his basketball games. Ox listens with jealousy. Suddenly, he attempts to steal Calvin's magical shoes. But Beetleman hears the noise, comes in, and chastises Ox for bothering Calvin. Tracy goes to a medical store the night before his next big match to get some sleeping pills to help him sleep better. Calvin joins him. While talking, Calvin discovers that Tracy does not communicate with his father and has a strained relationship with him. Calvin is taken aback. He wishes he had someone to call Dad, but here's someone who does and won't even speak to him. Tracy accidentally takes a large dose of sleeping pills instead of allergy medication and falls asleep in the car. Calvin drives the car back to the hotel, bumping along the way to ensure Tracy is not suspended for missing curfew. However, the coach discovers the next day that Tracy allowed Calvin to drive the car the entire night. Tracy gets into trouble and feels bad that Calvin is being punished for his mistake. After saving Tracy, Calvin receives a heartfelt thank you. This moment brings them closer together, and they become good friends. When they return, many people queue up to adopt Calvin. Murph begins to feel bad because he wishes someone else would like him. Beetleman, on the other hand, does not want Calvin adopted because if he leaves, the orphanage will no longer receive funding. So he intentionally introduces Calvin to rude and strange people. Calvin dislikes all of them and decides to stay at the orphanage. Calvin pays Tracy a visit one day at his home. He is taken aback by Tracy's large and stunning home. Calvin discusses everything that has happened over the last few days. Tracy helps him relax, and they both have a great time. However, the next day, Calvin invites Tracy's father to his home without Tracy's permission, hoping to mend their broken relationship. Tracy dislikes it and tells Calvin to stay out of his personal life. The next day, they play against their rival team. However, because Tracy and Calvin are upset with each other, the team performs poorly and loses. Everyone becomes enraged because it is such an important match, and there is only one final game left to determine whether they will advance to the knockout stage. The next day, Beetleman introduces Calvin to a family that wishes to adopt him. He also gives Calvin new shoes and tells him, "First impression is the last impression. Dress nicely." Calvin hands Murph his lucky shoes and says, "No matter what, these shoes should never leave us." Murph wears them and pretends to be Calvin, but nothing magical happens. A little later, Ox approaches Murph and inquires about the shoes. When Murph refuses to speak, Beetleman burns a corner of Murph's final photo with his mother. Beetleman has bet a lot of money on the opposing team in the upcoming match. His strategy is straightforward. If Calvin does not have his magical shoes, he will play poorly and lose. Meanwhile, Calvin's meeting with the new family does not go well. Murph calls right before the match and tells him everything about the shoes. Calvin hurries back to the orphanage. He and his friends tie Beetleman to a chair and ask where the shoes are. When Beetleman rudely tells Ox to help him, Ox becomes enraged and joins Calvin's team. They all find the shoes and rush to the stadium. Beetleman escapes and orders his men to stop Calvin. They try hard but fail. In the end, Beetleman himself stands in front of Calvin, blocking him. Calvin crashes his scooter into him and rushes into the stadium. Calvin's team is significantly behind in points. As soon as Calvin arrives, he begins scoring basket after basket. Soon the score is tied. However, during one performance, Calvin's shoes tear apart. He sits down, despondent, believing he is nothing without the magic shoes. Tracy approaches him and says, "The shoes only boosted your confidence. The real talent is within you." Hearing this, Calvin regains his energy and contributes to his team's victory. Following the match, Calvin decides to live a normal childhood. He tells the coach he does not want to renew his contract and returns to the orphanage. After Beetleman departs, the orphanage improves significantly. Tracy unexpectedly visits the orphanage. He informs Calvin that he is thinking about adopting a child and asks, "Do you want to be my son?" Calvin happily agrees with one condition. Murph must accompany him. Soon, another family adopts Richie. Finally, we see Calvin, Murph, and Tracy living happily together as a real family. By this, the movie ends in here. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.